Are you serious? You want to use your paid leave now, during such a busy time? What are you thinking? Mary, the executive, snapped at me. Yes, I'm serious. It's for my brother's wedding. Fine, take the day off. Actually, don't bother coming back at all. You're fired. Do you understand? Those were the shocking words I received from Mary when I requested a single day of paid leave after dedicating over 10 years to the company. It was the breaking point for me after enduring her harassment for so long. I quit. I'll be using my remaining 40 days of paid leave starting today. Thank you for everything over the years, I said, taking off my apron and gathering my belongings. Little did Mary or I know, my departure would lead to a major crash in the company's stock prices. My name is Lisa. My brother Bob and I had a comfortable life with our kind parents. Every summer, we'd go on 2-day trips, often visiting famous amusement parks within the country. However, our lives changed drastically in the spring of my senior year of high school. My parents went to a nearby tourist spot for cherry blossom viewing, something they often did together. Bob and I easily saw them off, not knowing it would be the last time. On their way back, they were involved in a multi-car accident. Their car was wrecked, and both of them passed away suddenly. Bob and I, who had been comfortably protected by our parents, were thrown into the rough seas of society. As the older sister, I had no time to mourn. I had to shoulder the burdens of life quickly. Bob was still in middle school, so I had to be strong for both of us. Holding back my tears, I took care of all the household chores. Fortunately, we had some savings and insurance money left by our parents, so we weren't immediately troubled by living expenses. However, Bob was a bright student who excelled in his studies. Unlike me, I wanted to give him the opportunity to go to college. I was speechless when I checked the college tuition fees. I had wanted to go to college myself and study nutrition, but that wasn't an option anymore. Deciding to use our parents' savings for Bob's college, I realized I needed to find a job as soon as I graduated from high school to sustain our future. My job hunt went relatively smoothly. When considering where to apply, I thought of working somewhere related to something my parents loved. That's when I found out about a confectionery shop called Johnson's, which made chestnut sweets, a favorite of my parents. The place was easily accessible from my house, so I set my sights on Johnson's as my top choice and poured my heart into the resume. Before I knew it, I was advancing to an interview with the president and quickly received a job offer. To celebrate, I bought a special chestnut cake and shared it with Bob. He tearfully apologized for making me give up on going to college because of him, but I kept telling him not to worry. He shouldn't worry about such things. I hugged him and repeatedly assured him it was okay. Although giving up on college was disappointing, I was genuinely happy to work at the store my parents loved. I learned that Johnson's, a confectionery store, was unusually a publicly traded company and quite large. I felt a little pride in being able to work at the main store. Life as a working adult was busy but fulfilling. I'd work all day, come home, cook dinner, clean up, and sleep. In the morning, I'd do laundry and head to the shop. Since I had decided to use the money my parents left for Bob's tuition, I supported our living expenses with my salary alone. I would score supermarket flyers for bargains to feed a hungry high school boy and myself while cutting down on food expenses. I wanted cute cosmetics now that I was working, but I settled for cheaper ones from the supermarket. I kept telling myself to save until Bob graduated from college. He offered to help with household chores, but knowing he studied late into the night, I firmly refused. When I told him, "We can't afford a gap year, so you need to study hard now to make up for it," he understood and began to study even harder. Every day his hard work paid off, and he got into a national university. We cried and celebrated together when he got into his first choice university. Once in college, Bob started part-time work, bringing a bit of ease to our lives. When he bought me a dress with his first paycheck, I was so moved that I cried on the train home. Bob's college years flew by quickly. He secured a job as an executive assistant at a company under Smith Holdings, a major corporation, and decided to move out after graduating. It felt like a hole was left in my heart when Bob, whom I raised like a parent, moved out, especially in the early spring chill. However, I was relieved that I could support him through college despite our parents' absence. At the confectionery shop where I have worked non-stop for 8 years, I have had many juniors and have become accustomed to the job. Now, there is almost nothing I don't know about the shop, and I have become good friends with the craftsmen and have become someone they can rely on. Yet being family-owned, the company retains some old-fashioned, harsh work practices. I had to do chores like waiting for the president's family and run personal errands for Mary, the president's wife. Mary was quite a handful, always wanting to be the center of attention. I tried to stay under her radar with big round glasses and a simple hairstyle, but still often faced her harassment. Still, I never thought of quitting. I wasn't sure if I, a high school graduate, could find another job easily, and I needed to support Bob. Plus, my pride in working with the chestnut cakes my parents loved kept me from considering leaving. Years after Bob started working, I received a call from him, sounding embarrassed. By all accounts, the proposal was a success. His fiancée, Maria, is the daughter of the president of the Smith Group, where he works. Bob, working as an executive assistant, had become close with the president's family and quickly formed a bond with Maria. With the blessing of the president and CEO, he had proposed to Maria, and they were now set to marry. "Sis, don't cry. I'll make things easier for you now," Bob said, noticing my tears of joy. "Bob, congratulations," I replied, truly overwhelmed with emotion. I couldn't find any other words and just kept repeating, "Congratulations." The wedding was set to take place in 3 months. It coincided with a busy season at the store, but nothing was more important than my dear brother's wedding. Besides, I had hardly used any paid leave so far. If not now, when would I use it? After hanging up the phone, I headed straight to my closet. As expected, I didn't have a dress suitable for a wedding. It's a once-in-a-lifetime event for Bob, so I wanted to wear something really stylish. I'll go dress shopping on my next day off. I need to get a new small purse too, I thought. I couldn't contain my excitement, as if it were my own big day. While my mind was filled with happiness about Bob's wedding, the company was facing tough times. Unable to bear Mary's bullying, 2 junior colleagues had resigned. Additionally, a veteran male employee left to take over his family business. Leaving so suddenly shows a lack of responsibility, Mary complained, ignoring the fact that her harassment was the cause. "It's true, especially at a time when we don't have enough hands." The president agreed. President Johnson is a yes man to Mary. It's pitiful that he can't stand up to his wife and follows her lead even at work. He's not reliable at all. With people leaving, the president and Mary didn't even think of hiring replacements. They dumped the extra work on us and just grumbled, which was truly exhausting. Still, I worked desperately, covering for the juniors who left. The wedding day approached before I knew it. I had planned to apply for a day off when Mary was in a good mood but hadn't found the right time to mention the wedding. With only 2 weeks left, I had to apply today. "Mary, good evening." "Oh, Lisa, what do you need?" "My brother is getting married." "That's great. Congratulations. And when are you getting married, Lisa?" I was just there to apply for leave. Why did she need to ask about my marriage prospects? Annoyed but not showing it, I continued, "Someday I will. For now, I'd like to take a day off on the 25th, Sunday." "Why? You want to take a day off during this busy period? Are you serious?" "I am. It's my brother's wedding." "Fine, take the day off. Actually, you don't need to come back ever. You're fired. Understand? Fired. Fired after over 10 years of dedicated service, hardly taking any leave, and for my brother's wedding. Working tirelessly through this busy period, even covering for those who left." Something inside me snapped. Perhaps it was the last straw after enduring years of Mary's harassment. "Then I'll resign. I'll use the remaining 40 days of my leave starting today. Thank you for everything over the years." As I spoke, I removed my bandana. Ignoring the stunned colleagues, Mary, and the speechless President Johnson, I grabbed my belongings from the locker and left the company without looking back. Despite being unfairly dismissed, I felt a strange sense of liberation once I stepped out of the company. Determined to sever all ties with them, my first stop was a mobile phone store. I changed my number to ensure I wouldn't receive any calls from the company. Then, deciding to start anew, I chose to move out of my apartment since the company knew my address and I didn't want them tracking me down. I thought about looking for a new place through a real estate agent, but then I decided to fulfill a long-held dream of living in a hotel. After all, I had been working for over 10 years since high school without any significant breaks. I couldn't spend my salary on leisure. I had been thrifty, buying only essential clothes and cosmetics, and dining out was out of the question. In other words, I had a decent amount of savings. I decided to treat myself with these savings for my 10 years of hard work. With that in mind, I checked into a business hotel near the station for a long-term stay. I jumped into the freshly made bed, marking the start of my comfortable hotel life. Finally, the day of Bob's wedding arrived. The bride, Maria, was the daughter of the well-known Smith Group's president. The wedding was held in a luxurious venue at a top-tier hotel. "Thank you all for attending my sister's wedding today," began President Smith, Maria's brother, during his speech. "The groom, Bob, has been working as my assistant and is an exceptionally talented young man, truly my right hand. It's a great happiness for my sister to marry such a capable and sincere man. For us at Smith Group, it's also a great addition to have such a strong character join our family, promising future growth and stability for our group." Tears welled up in my eyes during his speech. My brother had become more admirable than I ever imagined. Who would have thought he'd earn enough trust to marry the sister of a president? According to what Bob had told me, President Smith, the son of the chairman, is expected to be the next chairman of the group. Together with President Smith, my brother Bob is improving the performance of the company they currently manage. I recalled the sudden grief I faced in my senior year of high school when our parents passed away. Bob was just a middle schooler then. I, not yet fully an adult myself, seriously struggled with how to guide my brother into adulthood. Seeing the balance in the savings account left by our parents, I even contemplated dropping it out of high school to work. Bob once hesitantly said, "I wanted to attend a tutoring school during the summer break." I remember my smile being strained as I said, "Sure, go ahead and do your best." Through desperate money management and cooking efforts, I helped Bob graduate from college. Now he's doing a respectable job, good enough to marry into a more affluent family. This must be what they mean by a sister's pride. Maria, soon to be Bob's wife, was smiling happily beside him. The more I looked at her, the more I admired her elegant beauty. As a sister, what relieved me most was how kind Maria seemed. Every time something happened, their glances and shared laughter showed how deeply they were in love. It filled me with happiness too. It was during the meal with our family after the ceremony when Bob noticed something. "Sis, is there something bothering you?" I had hesitated for just a moment, lost in thoughts about my job situation, and Bob, sharp as ever, whispered in my ear, "No, it's nothing serious." "It doesn't have to be serious. Just talk to me about it," Bob insisted. "It's not something to discuss on such a happy day. I'll tell you later. But now you've got me worried. Come here for a second." He gently pushed me behind a partition, giving us privacy. I teared up again at my brother's thoughtfulness. "Sis, is it about your job? Did something tough happen?" Bob had hit the nail on the head. "Yes, it's about the job. I told them I needed a day off for your wedding, and they said they fired me. I got so mad I resigned on the spot." I ended up spilling everything, though I had intended to calm down and tell him later. "Wait, sis, you worked so hard at Johnson's, and they fired you." "Yes, remember I told you about that executive always giving me a hard time. She's in charge of attendance. When I asked her for a day off, she said if I'm taking time off during such a busy period, I'm fired. So I just said fine and left with my things." Bob was speechless. "Didn't they call to apologize later?" "That was it. Yes, I just wanted to get away from the company, so I changed my cell phone number. I even moved out of my apartment since they knew my address. Now, I'm living a lavish hotel life with the money I saved." Bob didn't laugh at my attempt to lighten the mood. "Maria," he called, peering from behind the partition. His bride, Maria, now in casual clothes instead of her wedding dress, hurried over, looking even softer. Bob briefly explained my current situation to her. "Maria, let's make Lisa our first guest. We have a guest room in our house." I couldn't possibly. I don't want to be a burden on newlyweds. I'm actually enjoying my hotel life. "Don't worry about me," I said, hurriedly trying to refuse. Bob interrupted. "Maria insists, sis, really come stay with us. Living in a hotel, you can't cook and your nutrition suffers. Plus, you must be anxious. Stay with us until you find your next job." "That's right," Maria added. "Our father built us a house that's actually too big for just the two of us. It's perfect. Please stay with us until you feel settled, Lisa." I couldn't possibly. I feel so indebted. "It's okay," Maria said gently. "If you could teach me some of Bob's favorite dishes when you have time, it would help me too. Please, really, is it okay?" Unable to lift my head from a mix of gratitude and guilt, I nodded. They both smiled, and it was decided that I would stay with my brother and his new wife. About a week after I started staying at Bob's, a man came to visit, escorted by Bob. It was John, the son of the president of Johnson's, where I used to work. I knew him by sight, but as he worked for a different company, we had hardly spoken. "Why are you here with Bob?" I asked, surprised. I wondered. Bob grinned. "Actually, he's a friend from college." John spoke up. Regarding the many years you worked at Johnson's, my parents did something terrible. I can't apologize enough. He sincerely apologized. No, John, you don't need to apologize, I said. Well, I've been thinking of returning to the family business. I found out that your paid leave hasn't been compensated yet, so I'll make sure it's paid this week. Also, there's something confidential. John, not now. That's confidential to my sister too. Bob playfully stopped him. Though I couldn't find out the details, their demeanor made me think nothing bad would happen, so I decided to wait and see. A few days later, I saw on the news that Johnson's stock had plummeted. Had those two done something? Maria appeared with a smile. Lisa, I actually loved Johnson's chestnut cakes and held a lot of their stocks. But after what they did to you, Bob and I discussed it and sold them all. My father also held shares and he was furious when he heard about their treatment of you, so we all sold them. This crash, I held quite a bit for investment purposes, and when I sold them all at once, it seems many others are selling Johnson's shares now. She showed me the screen of her tablet, displaying news about Johnson's staff resigning and incidents of harassment by Mary. Suddenly, Bob appeared. John and I bought most of the sold shares. With that, we can have a say in the management. Being the son of the president doesn't make John the president of Johnson's. At the next shareholders meeting, we plan to oust the current president and executive director and install John as president. We'll clear the bad reputation and compete again with delicious chestnut cakes. John has learned proper management at another company. He's trustworthy. I noticed you and John were planning something, but I never imagined this, I said. Right, sis. When John becomes president, would you support him again? This is a letter from him. Bob handed me the letter. The letter from John contained an apology and a request for me to come back, promising to never involve the current president or Mary in the company again. He asked if I would teach him about the business, becoming his right-hand person. John and I agree that we won't make you do unreasonable work, Bob assured. I couldn't help but smile at the earnestness of their offer. Returning to Johnson's, the company I had once left behind, was tempting. I truly loved Johnson's chestnut cakes and wanted to preserve the flavor cherished by my parents. So I nodded quietly yet firmly. When I rejoined the company, I found that most of the staff had resigned and relationships with suppliers were mostly damaged. It seemed a daunting task to turn things around. However, the staff who stayed were highly motivated, filled with a desire to protect Johnson's flavors. Moreover, craftsmen who had been with the company since the previous president's time and long-term suppliers were hopeful about John's leadership, which shone a ray of hope for revival. Just as the business started to improve, the former president and Mary showed up, apparently trying to make a comeback. When security tried to remove them, they began throwing office supplies. I immediately called the police. I'll sue you. How dare you do this? Mary screamed. I calmly presented past ledgers showing their embezzlement and audio testimony from former employees about Mary's harassment. They turned to John for help, but he firmly said, "What Lisa is saying represents the collective decision of the company, including myself." The two were taken to the police, and it turned out they faced various charges, including embezzlement, tax evasion, and forgery. They ended up behind bars for a long time. A year later, a big opportunity came to Johnson's. The Smith Group, where Bob worked, invited Johnson's to join a new business venture they were funding. The offer came from Bob, the secretary to the president. John agreed immediately, and we were soon busy with recruitment and planning for the new outlet. It was a busy time, but a dreamy kind of busy. Riding the train for another site visit, I reflected on how far I had come. There was a time when I wanted to give up everything, but through years of steady work, I reached where I am now. Steadily and sincerely building things up, slowly but surely, is important. Looking at the recent performance graphs, I was reminded of this once again.